welcome to the stage a wonderful lady, Odette Annable.
Hello, everyone. This is so special. Thank you all for showing up.
So this is your first time in Metropolis. How are you liking it?
I'm really enjoying myself. I'm so happy the rain stopped so I could pose in front of that Superman statue. It's so exciting.
Do you do many conventions?
I don't do many. I've done some of the bigger ones, like Comic-Con in San Diego, which is a wild ride, and New York, which is great. But I love this because it feels like a festival and a convention combined, and I get to sit and actually chat with all of you and, hear stories, and, it just feels more intimate, which is really nice.
That's awesome. All right, so we will open it up in a little bit for questions from the audience. I have a few first. My biggest is, how is it being able to play like a dual identity on screen? Like Samantha Arias, which is like a single mom, and then Rain, the world killer.
Yeah, when I first read the script, it felt a little daunting to me, just because the dual identity and really kind of carving out those arcs and understanding both characters with their differences, because they're both so different. I really had to lean into Sam's character, which was the human character, and being a single mother and understanding her struggles in that way, and then really justifying the way that Rain thought, and knowing that she was coming into with her own identity and her own justifications for being a world killer, and trying to bring humanity to her as well, and understand her. And I just loved playing her. I loved to be bad. I mean, it was really the most fun, and just putting that costume on and feeling powerful and understanding that, playing two different characters in that way was challenging, but it was one of the best challenges that I've ever had in my career. I felt very lucky.
I'd like to talk a little bit also about your philanthropic things. I know you're a part of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, which is all near and dear to all of our hearts.
So my husband and I, we've been fortunate enough to be ambassadors for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation and learn more about what they do. And we went to New Jersey and we got to just see all of the advancements that they have had. And a buddy of ours, he actually broke his C1 in a shallow diving incident, and he was one of the fortunate ones. But really just going in and seeing the work that they do and their dedication is really truly unmatched. And we were able to meet Will and some of the family, and just that connection that I felt just walking into those doors and seeing the work that they do and all of their supporters. It's just really unbelievable.
That's awesome. It's awesome to be a part of.
Yeah. And this was before I was ever a part of the Superman world. So it all feels very kismet.
That's awesome. So that kind of brought you into the Superman world.
Without knowing it, it was almost like a foreshadowing. Yeah, awesome. Absolutely.
That's awesome. You've also produced.
Yeah, a little bit. Mostly I started acting when I was 4 years old, in a small little movie called Kindergarten Cop. I was actually just learning English at the time. I spoke Spanish. My family is Cuban, and so I learned to speak Spanish first. And when I was very introverted as a child, and my parents, they met a family member that was into commercials, so they got me an agent when I was 4 years old. I was like, let me grow a personality. But it really did get me out of my shell, and when I was on set, I felt the movie magic, and that really fascinated me, and it kind of sparked something inside of me, a little passion, and I kept doing it because I'm still so blown away by showing up on set and seeing how many people it takes to make something work. Every single part is intricate, And I'm just, happen to be in front of the camera, but so much goes on behind the camera. And so I'm really interested in continuing to create and produce. And I don't know if directing is necessarily my calling, but I'm really kind of open-minded and into learning about every aspect of the business, because it really is quite magical.
That was actually going to be my next. Have you thought of the directing? What about writing?
Probably writing before directing. I feel like directing is just, you have to have such a vision and a shot list, and my brain doesn't work that way. I'm very scattered, and I have ADD, and I'm just kind of like, everything goes everywhere, and I don't know how to hone it in. But writing feels like I can, kind of stream of consciousness and just write what you feel. And I think it's important for everybody to sit down and journal and get your thoughts out and, see what comes of it, because you never know.
Okay. We're going to open it up to the audience.
Yes.
Was there any trouble at first doing the fight scenes with car or the stunts?
That's a great question. So I had done a little fight training before. I did a TV show called Banshee, and I played this, really cool character, and I'd done some choreography before. And I really prepared for that. It was like a month of preparing and rehearsing and being in a gym before we even shot the film. Supergirl was really different in the way that you kind of just did it on the fly. I would learn fight scenes. Melissa and I would sit down and we would learn these fight scenes, even on the day, which is so wild to think about because they look so elaborate, and the production quality is so incredible, but we really had to, use our time wisely and really just be a team in that way, because you can get hurt. And if you're not careful, and you just really have to trust your stunt coordinators, and they obviously know what they're doing. But Melissa and I really were partners from the very beginning, and she was nobody got hurt, so thank God for that.
Miss Odette?
Yes, hi, thanks for coming.
You're welcome. I have a question. In the You Again movie, how did it feel about you and Kristen Bell? How did you, what did you think about throwing plates at her?
Well, this is a funny story. They gave me a stack of plates for the scene, and there was a camera in front of me, and I had to throw plates at the camera. And they said, "You can hit it anywhere, but don't hit the camera." And I hit the camera, smashed it right into the lens. So we had a whole reset, and I don't have good aim, but that day I was on it. I saw someone here.
Again, welcome to Metropolis.
Thank you.
The big name city with a small role film. My question is talking about your experience with directing or your ADD. I'm a huge found footage horror fan, and what was that like shooting a found footage versus I don't know what they call it, but
Yeah, like a traditional filmmaking. Sure.
And was TJ actually holding the camera the entire time? And the last question is, rumor has it Cloverfield 2 might be coming out. And
Really?
if Robin Beth survived the nuclear blast under the bridge.
Well, okay, so let me break this down. Found footage versus shooting more traditional. In a way, I think holding the camera and allowing for your actor to have more freedom and improvise is always such a great thing for me personally, because it really brings this unexpected quality to what you're shooting. It feels really, really natural. Not saying that, your job is to be an actor and you have to, deliver lines naturally as if you were speaking with somebody, but in a found footage in that way, it just gives you so much freedom to kind of play and feel the other actor and have, a real connection So I really, really enjoyed that process. And J.J. Abrams, we kind of just figured it out as we were going. And it turned out to be really wonderful, and it became kind of viral, and none of us, the actors ever experienced anything like that. So we all kind of went on the journey together, and it was exhausting, and because we were kind of trying to figure it out, I think it was a longer process than a traditional way of filmmaking, because traditionally you've got your camera setups, you know exactly what you're gonna do, you know mostly the lines that you're gonna deliver. So this was, it was so off the beaten path, but sometimes when you take a risk, and I think can go for anything in life, it can be really, really rewarding, and I think that was one of those experiences. T.J. Miller, who's one of the actors on Cloverfield, which is the movie that we're talking about, he held the camera most of the time, but then they did some kind of film magic where somebody else would be holding the camera so T.J. could actually, perform and do his thing. And as far as Cloverfield 2 goes, I would love to be a part of it. I don't know if Beth made it. I gotta be honest, I was in Central Park, and I was underneath that bridge, and that rubble was coming in hard. There was also a really big Godzilla-like monster coming for us, so it's up for debate. I'm gonna say she survived just so I could be in the movie.
You had possibly a desire of stage acting and possible Broadway aspirations.
I would love to. I don't know if I'd be any good at it, but I should have more confidence, because stepping out of your comfort zone is always a good thing, I think. It would be, if the role was right, if I had the opportunity, then I would absolutely go for it. I think the older I get, the more I'm interested in stepping out of my comfort zone, because let's be honest, we're all gonna die, so let's just take a risk, and why not? I don't know if that opportunity would come, but if it did, then I would absolutely love to.
What would be your dream role?
I can't sing and I can't really dance, but West Side Story, I don't know.
Nice.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, you were in season 3 with Jeremy Jordan, and he is phenomenal in the Broadway
nominated
role.
for a Tony.
He sure did. Have you talked to him about maybe?
No, I reached out to him and I congratulated him, and we kind of chatted a little bit about how we're doing. I think he'd laugh at me if he knew that I was going to come on Broadway and try it out. But hey, maybe I could get some pointers from him.
Were you aware of the Superman mythos? Were you a comic book person before coming across the Supergirl?
I was not, and that was a point of contention for my husband's family, because they are massive Superman fans. So I kind of had to do my research. And so I had a little under my belt when I signed on to do Supergirl, but not that much. And of course, as time went on, and as I was really loving the character and the whole world, I learned a little more about it. But really, Rain was such her own adaptation, and I was really lucky enough to bring in some of my own experiences and bring it into the character. And I think it was well received, and it really worked. Hello.
First of all, I loved your character on Supergirl. My second question is a little bit difficult. How did you like rolling on House?
I was, yet again, terrified at first, because how was I going to spew all of that medical jargon? But once I got over the fact that, I was going to be working with Hugh Laurie, he terrified me at first. I didn't want to look him in the eye, because he can be pretty intimidating. But he was so warm and welcoming, and I think he knew how genuinely happy I was to be on set. And came on really prepared, and I did also my research, and I really made sure to kind of follow his lead, and I learned more about acting than I had ever learned in my life just by being in a scene with him. Watching him made me better, and just learning from him and seeing his process. And he never broke the American accent on set, except one time he was nominated for an Emmy, and I didn't know if I should say congratulations, but I was like, that's a big deal. I mean, it's an Emmy. Like, I have to say congratulations. And I think he could sense my fear that I didn't know how to approach him. And so as he was walking away, about to get onto his motorcycle, I said, Hugh. And he turned around and I said, congrats on the Emmy, okay, bye. And he turned around and he broke his American accent and he spoke to me in his British accent, and he said thank you. And I thought, all right, maybe now I've crossed that line and we can be friends.
What was your favorite scene you were in Supergirl?
Wow, it's really coming down now. I live in Texas now, so I'm used to the thunder. Yeah, Texans! My favorite scene that I shot on Supergirl was that very first scene where I got to wear the suit and I was on that rooftop with Melissa Benoist. It felt very surreal. I was so proud that I'd come so far in my career that I was able to really work on something that I was proud of and work alongside an actress that I admired, and being on a show that has such great fans and such a wonderful following. I just kept pinching myself because, oh my gosh, you guys, this is wild. Get in here, look at those, they're getting drenched. But yeah, so that was really it for me. I really felt like that inner child that worked so hard to make it as an actress. I felt like in that moment I had made it.
I have a question.
Oh yes.
What was it like when you were the husband on Walker and he was a really bad guy at the beginning?
He was a really bad guy. I've seen that side of Dave. I know all about it. I wasn't shocked. It was so great. You know, Dave and my husband is an actor. His name's Odette Annable. He's on a show called Lioness, so if you haven't watched it, you should watch it. We've worked together a few times. We did a show called Brothers and Sisters, and I came on and I did a few episodes. I think he enjoys working with me more than I enjoy working with him. We're together all the time. What do we need to work together for? You know, we're at home, but no, it's great, and he's such a great actor, and we were kind of like two ships passing each other because he had a different storyline, but it was fun. Just a little closer. Oh yeah, that's good.
How about this?
That's even better.
All right. Now, so many of you came in like halfway through the run of the series, and so many changes were made. I never missed an episode.
Awesome. Every episode. Oh my gosh, House Lifers, I love it.
What can I say? Enjoyed watching him at the very last of the season. That was the last season where he actually focused action too, by the way. But anyway, the question is, how were the new people treated, or how did y'all feel about being almost like replacement leads or special characters at halfway through your own series?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I talk about this a lot as for people that want to get into acting or how it kind of works, for how I landed the role. I actually auditioned for a different role on House years prior for just a guest star in one of the episodes. And I didn't get the role, but I did a good enough job where the producers and the director at the time noticed me and they liked my work. And so then cut to 3 years after that when they were hiring new actors to come in as, maybe replacements. They remembered me and they remembered my audition and they offered me the role to come on and do the last season, the entire season of House. So I always say this to, other actors, you just gotta keep at it and know that sometimes people are watching, and even though you don't get that one job, it could turn into something bigger. So for me, it was coming on, it was such a full circle moment. Just knowing that, of course I was nervous, it was such a big show at the time, and all the actors were so wonderful, and I was, all of it, but I felt like I had earned it because I had done that before, and so I had to, come in with confidence and know that I was just going to do that job.
So as a fan,
What's that? Thank you, I'm trying.
so as a fan of the yes, as a fan of the TV show Monk, we were on an episode of that as Courtney, and this is my daughter's name, by the way. But
Hi, Courtney.
what was it like working with the crew of Monk, and especially Tony Shalhoub?
I have another story about Monk. I was about 20 years old at the time, and I was auditioning as much as I could and getting rejected left and right, and I finally got the audition for Monk. And it was only really a couple of lines, but I landed the role. I was so thrilled. I showed up to set, and I got really sick. I don't know if the nerves were taking over. I'm not sure what happened, but I saw Tony Shalhoub. I freaked out. I was about to shoot, and I ran down the street and I threw up. And then I pulled it together, and I showed up to set. He said, "What a great audition you had." I did not tell him I threw up, and I continued with the day.
This is a question from Powerpuff Girl fan Axel. She wanted to know what it was like for you to join an iconic cartoon of the Powerpuff Girls.
Well, I wasn't on Powerpuff Girls. I was on
Can you say you're on 5 episodes of the Powerpuff Girls and I can't wait?
No, that was not me, but I wish I did do it.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned working on Walker. You worked a lot with Jared Leto.
Yes, I love Jared.
So anyone who has ever seen any interviews or gone to any cons with Jared and Jensen, they are completely buttons. I know Jared did executive producing on that show. Was he his normal cut up self, or was he a little more serious because he was producing?
Oh, I could talk all day about Jared Padalecki. I love him so much. I love his wife so much. We're like family. Jared created the show. He executive produced it. He starred in it. He was a part of every bit of the fabric that made the show what it was. I am so inspired by his ability to lead. He was such a great leader. He would show up, knew everybody's name, made it feel so warm and welcoming. He was funny as hell, but he was also very serious. He took his work very seriously, and I think that's why he's so successful. It's because he really, really cares. He's such a professional, and he can have a really good time.
Hello. First, thanks for being here on that cloudy day in Metropolis.
I'm here, baby.
I apologize. I had to run back to my room and come back. So if this has already been asked, I'm sorry. But if there's any role out there, like what is a dream role for you that you would love to play at any point in your career?
You know, if I had the ability to be picky, which I don't, so whatever role comes my way, unless I really don't connect with it or it makes zero sense, then I politely pass. But I think it would be some kind of romantic comedy of some sort, like a relationship dramedy. I love people. I'm curious about how people live and you know how they maneuver through life, and I love human connection and I love a community. So you know, relationships is really something that I'm drawn to, and human connection. So it would probably live somewhere in that world. And if I don't get cast in one of those, then I'm going to create one.
You just said you played like a mark romantic drama. Who was your husband? Anybody who played your husband?
Wow, that's a great question. And Mr. Dave Annable, who is my husband, would say him, but we're not. No, we're not going to do that. Oh my goodness. I love Michael Fassbender. I love Michael B. Jordan. I really like any of the internet's boyfriends right now. I would take. I wouldn't get too picky.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
So, I remember you from a TV show called South Beach.
Oh yeah.
What was it like working on that show?
That was the very first show that I did as an adult, because like I said before, I was a child actress. I started when I was 4 years old, but when I was 19, I moved to Los Angeles on my own, and I was auditioning a bunch, and finally a script came, and it was for South Beach. Jennifer Lopez was executive producing. That was very exciting for me at the time. And they put me through the ringer to get, the job. It was like 5 or 6 auditions before they trusted that I could, even show up and do it. And it was a lovely experience. I did that show with Adrienne Palicki, and I don't know if any of you guys know who she is, but she's a wonderful actress who's also still a friend of mine. And that's what's so beautiful about the industry, is that you can really, keep in touch with actors that you've worked with, and then they become family, and then you get to work on other projects with them, like her movie that's coming out. It's called Due West, and I got to play a small role in that, so it was a really great experience. And I was in Miami for 6 months. When I was 19, partying, getting into clubs when I probably shouldn't have been.
Hi, Odette. Hi. Thanks for coming out. I have 2 questions. One question I have is for, back in Kevin Smith, who said he had such a fun time directing the episode of Supergirl. So I was curious on what the experience was working with him. My second question was, for the scene we had working out for Supergirl, like were there any hiccups? Did you try long, did you round it or anything? Or how did you keep it if you wanted to as well?
I wanted to keep that suit so bad. Oh, when my time was up at Supergirl, I said, can I just keep this suit? They said no. I said, what about the cape? They said no. So that suit is locked up in a warehouse wherever all of the other suits go, maybe to museums or somewhere, but if I could steal it still, I probably would. I love it so much. I thought they did such a fantastic job designing it, and really it was such a great way to do it, because we shot in Vancouver and it was very, very cold, and the comic book character didn't wear as much clothing, but I think we still kept it sexy and classy and really awesome. Working with Kevin Smith was a dream. He's everything that you want him to be or think that he could be, and even more. He showed up every single day with donuts for the crew. He brought a smile to everybody's face. He was so energetic. I don't know how he is capable of doing it all, but he does it with grace and humility and joy and laughter, and he's really talented, and I hope to work with him again soon.
What was your, in the season Supergirl show, what was your favorite part about doing Rain?
My favorite part about playing Rain was that she gave me this confidence that I didn't have before. I really found ways to love her so fully, and it ended up where I loved myself even more fully. I felt, such a connection to the character. I loved being a part of the world. I loved putting the suit on, and it gave me so much confidence, and she was just a pleasure to play. And the duality of playing both of those characters at the same time, it was creatively so fulfilling for me, and one of the highlights of my career.
So you weren't able to steal your suit from the set. Did you steal anything else?
Probably. I mean, I take any souvenir that I can. I'm going to go around here and I'm going to get as much merch because I love it so much. I don't remember. They really were not allowing me to take anything. I was very sad about it.
Any other questions?
I'm going to take a picture of this crowd. It's so fun. Can you say hi? Possible.
Anybody have questions?
Yes.
I have to ask, I'm pretty sure I've asked before, how often do you get confused for Megan Fox?
It's happened. It's happened before. I actually had a very small role in Transformers. I love it. Yes, I have been compared, and what a beautiful thing. She's so wonderful and beautiful and all of it. I was actually, I had a small part in Transformers, and I sat next to her in the hair and makeup chair, and I think somebody came up to me and said, "Hey Megan, we gotta go." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not, no." So, yeah.
You were 5 years old when you started. Did you imagine how much you was going to be in the future?
No, I think my life has blown me away in so many different ways. The unexpected has happened, and, ups and downs and the rejections of this business, but I never really, I was expecting that, but I never expected for me to be so fortunate to have played so many different roles in my career, and I hope that doesn't stop. At 5 years old, I mean, I could tell that little girl right now, I wish I could, that she was going to go on for a ride and to hold on tight.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. From where in Cuba your family?
Santo Domingo.
Santo Domingo.
Are you Cuban?
No, Panama.
Oh, Panama.
Panama. But now American citizen.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Do you have a most memorable role or a most memorable person you've worked with?
The most memorable role is Rain. Obviously. I've loved every single role that I've played, specifically because I've done so much work to kind of like get into the person and get into, the character and the story. But I really do, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here. Playing Rain was one of the highlights of my entire career, and I again have been very fortunate to play different roles and to work with really, really wonderful people. But this was different, and I being able to play two completely different characters in one show at the same time and be in this world was just so wonderful.
Oh, I just wanted to ask about the Astronaut Wives Club.
Where are you? I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Sorry, yeah, the Astronaut Wives Club. How was that?
Oh, that was also really wonderful. You know, portraying someone who was alive at some point and a real person. I wish that I would have been able to get to talk to the real Trudy Cooper, but I took as much as I could and infused it with all of the love and power and tenacity and strength that she had, and also made really beautiful friends on that show. And what a time that was, just stepping into hair and makeup and going into a different time zone and, you know, seeing again the magic of everybody coming together and like making the jello for the 60s and just, you know, setting all of the pieces. You just kind of stepped into a different world. It was very cool.
In the final season of Supergirl, they brought back almost all the Car's most powerful villains. Were you ever asked to come back?
I came back, and I did an episode, and I got to work with the incredible Katie McGrath, who I so love, and it was great just to step back into that suit, and I would do it again in a heartbeat if I were ever asked, and maybe I'd try to steal it for the last time.
Talk a little closer.
Before you leave, I know this is off the wall now the box quick. Could you say how that Superman would make that photo stop and not get photo?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
So I know the cast of Supergirl were very close to each other. Were there any like practical jokers on set?
Yeah, McCall Brooks would not stop all day long. Jeremy Jordan was also a clown. He was so fun. Everybody was just great. And again, like you showed up, you did your work, but you also were allowed to have a good time. And when you can be a professional and get it done, then you allow time for play.
Yeah, McCall stole my phone when he was here. So.
Oh, he did? Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Hello.
My daughter, kind of have you ever done anything when you get into it? Do you have any advice for her?
Say that one more time.
I said, have you ever done any? Do you have any voice?
Done any what?
Have you ever done any voice acting?
Oh.
If she wants to do voice acting, if she wants to get into it, do you have any advice for her?
Hi, Poison Ivy. I love your costume. I have done voice acting. I was the voice of Chloe the Chihuahua in Beverly Hills Chihuahua. And also I voiced, for Fallout 3, the voice of Amada. And I actually got my start in voice acting when I was young. I did kindergarten cop. But I also did some commercials and stuff. You know, I think it's all about having the mentality of never giving up, because it's a really tough business to kind of break into, but working on your craft at home, creating stuff. Nowadays, the world has shifted into this, you know, anybody can really get their voice out there through social media and through different platforms like YouTube, where you can just start using your voice and creating your own world for yourself, which will gain viewers. And I think consistency is going to be the thing that you've got to remember, because even when you feel like maybe it's not the right thing or your confidence isn't, you know, there, just keep working on it. Keep working on your craft, and I promise you something will work. I promise. You just have to keep at it. I brought the rain.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Hello, thanks for
So I
having
had a
me.
question as far as character building.
So when you're coming up on a new character, you take elements from other characters and put them together to create that new character, or do you start from scratch?
I start from a feeling after I read the script. And whatever feeling that is evokes the first part of the process of creating a character. And I always bring in a little bit of me and who I am to the character, because that's when my own adaptation of however I see this is going to work the best, in my opinion. I always have to stay in my lane and understand that my performance is my own, and what I can bring will always be infused with a little part of me. And then I really try to understand where the character is coming from, even though it may not be my experience. Sometimes I bring in little bits of other characters just because I know what it looks like on screen. And then sometimes I watch other performances that feel similar and create a mood board and really, like, you know what they say, like steal from some of the greats and emulate, you know, what really wonderful actors are doing. I'm not above that. I love watching actors. I love following them, and I love knowing their creative process, and it helps mine as well. I love being here. This is so great. I love your outfit.
Thanks. What's your favorite animal?
That's a great question. It used to be a dolphin because I vacationed in Mexico once and I got to ride on a dolphin, and they were so smiley and they felt really cool. But I think my ultimate favorite animal is a dog because they're such great companions, and I just love them. Your outfit is awesome.
Okay, guys, we have time for one more question.
Now that you can hear me and the rain has stopped.
Is there somebody you like to work with in the movie that you've never worked with?
Well, like I said, I love so many different actors, but somebody that I would really love to work with that I haven't worked with, maybe Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is cool.
I just admire his work, and I think he's so diverse, and I think I would learn a lot from him.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. Yes, thank you for taking the time, for sticking it out in the rain. This has been such a wonderful experience, and I hope to come back next year and for many years to come. Thank you so much.